The call sign Hawk died with Commander Thomas Walker when his stealth fighter exploded over enemy territory. His innovative bombing tactics died with him too, or so the military brass believed. But his daughter Captain Elena Walker knew better. She understood that some missions are too important to leave unfinished, some legacies too valuable to abandon. When that same weapons facility claimed 3 more American pilots, Elena made a decision that would either validate her father's vision or destroy them both. Captain Elena Walker heard the knock at her apartment door at 0600 hours. She knew what it meant before she opened it. 2 officers stood in the hallway wearing their dress blues. The older one, a colonel she didn't recognize, held his cap under his arm. Behind him stood Chaplain Martinez from the base. "Captain Walker," the colonel said. "May we come in?" Elena stepped aside. Her coffee mug sat on the kitchen counter, still steaming. The morning news played on her television, volume turned low. "Please, sit down," the colonel said. "I'll stand." Elena crossed her arms. "Just tell me." The colonel cleared his throat. "Your father, Commander Thomas Walker, was killed in action yesterday at 14:30 hours. His aircraft went down during a bombing mission over hostile territory." Elena stared at the wall behind them. A photo of her father hung there, him standing next to his F-22, helmet tucked under his arm, that half smile he wore when he was proud of something. "How?" she asked. "Equipment failure during the bombing run. He was leading an attack on a weapons manufacturing facility. The target was not destroyed." Chaplain Martinez stepped forward. "Elena, I knew your father well. He spoke of you often. He was proud. Did he suffer?" The colonel shook his head. It was instantaneous. Elena walked to her kitchen window. Outside, the base was coming alive. Ground crews moved between aircraft. Pilots headed to briefings. Everything looked normal. "The mission failed," she asked without turning around. "The facility remains operational. We lost 2 other aircraft." Commander Walker's tactical approach was ambitious. Elena turned back. "Ambitious?" He insisted on using an unconventional attack pattern. New formation techniques he'd been developing. Command had concerns, but he convinced them to approve the mission. "And now you think his ideas got him killed?" The colonel's face stayed neutral. "The investigation is ongoing." After they left, Elena sat in her father's old chair, the leather recliner he'd brought from 3 different bases. She picked up her phone twice to call someone, then put it down. Who would she call? Her father had been her only family for 15 years. She pulled out the last letter he'd sent her. 3 weeks ago, written in his careful handwriting. "Elena, finally got approval for Operation Nightfall. Been working on these attack formations for 2 years. Command thinks I'm crazy, but the math works. This could change everything. Wish you could see the mission brief. You'd understand better than any of them. Love, Dad." She folded the letter and walked to her dresser. Inside the top drawer sat a small wooden box. She opened it and lifted out her father's old flight wings, the ones he'd worn as a lieutenant, before the promotions and decorations piled up. He'd given them to her when she graduated flight school. "You earned your own wings," he'd said that day. "But these flew first. Maybe they'll remind you where you came from." Elena pinned the wings to her uniform shirt. In the mirror, she looked like him, same dark hair, same stubborn jawline, same eyes that never backed down from a challenge. Her phone rang. The caller ID showed General Morrison's office. "Captain Walker speaking." "Elena, this is General Morrison. I'm sorry about your father. He was a good officer." "Thank you, sir. I need to see you in my office at 1000 hours. There are some things we need to discuss about your father's mission." "Sir, if this is about funeral arrangements." "It's not. We have a situation, Elena. That weapons facility your father died trying to destroy? It's still active. We intercepted communications this morning. They're planning to move their operations within the week." Elena gripped the phone tighter. What does that have to do with me? We're planning a follow-up mission. Conventional bombing this time. None of your father's experimental tactics. Morrison paused. But I wanted to talk to you first. About the Nighthawk squadron. What about them? Your father was their commanding officer. With his death, the position is open. You're qualified, Elena. More than qualified. Elena stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her father's wings caught the morning light. I'll be there at 1000 hours, sir. She hung up and walked back to the window. Somewhere out there, that facility was still running. Still making weapons that would kill American soldiers. Her father had died trying to stop it, and now they wanted to try again with conventional tactics, the same old methods that took longer, cost more lives, and gave the enemy time to adapt. Elena picked up her father's helmet from the closet shelf. Inside the liner, written in faded ink, were the words, "Innovation wins wars. Convention loses them." General Morrison's office smelled like old coffee and leather. Elena knocked twice and entered when she heard his voice. Come in, Captain. Close the door behind you. Morrison sat behind a desk covered with flight charts and mission reports. He was older than her father had been, with gray hair and lines around his eyes that came from squinting at too many tactical displays. Sit down, Elena. She took the chair across from his desk. Through the window behind him, she could see the flight line where mechanics worked on aircraft. I'll get straight to the point, Morrison said. The Nighthawks need a new commander. Your flight record is excellent. Your tactical knowledge is solid. The position is yours if you want it. What's the catch, sir? Morrison leaned back in his chair. Smart question. The catch is that half the Pentagon thinks your father was a reckless pilot who got good men killed chasing glory. Elena kept her face neutral. And what do you think, sir? I think your father was brilliant. I also think brilliance without wisdom is dangerous. Morrison picked up a thick folder from his desk. This is his complete mission file for Operation Nightfall. Everything he planned, everything he tried to do. He slid the folder across the desk. Elena opened it and saw pages of tactical diagrams, flight patterns, and mathematical calculations in her father's handwriting. Shadow strike formation, Morrison said. That's what he called it. Instead of conventional bombing runs with heavy escort, he wanted to use stealth fighters in coordinated waves. Hit multiple targets simultaneously, then extract before enemy air defenses could respond. Elena studied the diagrams. The formations looked like nothing she'd seen in any textbook. Complex patterns that would require perfect timing and absolute trust between pilots. It's revolutionary, she said. It's untested. And now it's killed 3 pilots, including your father. Elena looked up. Equipment failure killed my father. Not his tactics. Maybe. But command doesn't see it that way. Morrison stood and walked to the window. We're planning a new mission against that facility. Conventional approach this time. Heavy bombers with fighter escort. Overwhelming force. How many casualties are you projecting? Morrison turned back to her. That's classified information. I have clearance for Nighthawks operations. 12 to 15 aircraft lost. Possibly more. Elena closed the folder. My father's approach would have lost 3. Maximum. Your father's approach did lose 3. And failed to destroy the target. Because of equipment failure, not tactical error. Morrison sat back down. Elena, I didn't call you here to debate your father's methods. I called you here to offer you command of the Nighthawks. But understand this, if you take this position, you follow orders. You use conventional tactics. You don't experiment with your father's theories. Elena stared at the folder. Inside were months of her father's work. Calculations that kept him up nights. Innovations that could change how air combat worked. Sir, what if I could prove his tactics work? How? Let me lead a follow-up mission using his formation. Same target, same objective. But this time with proper equipment checks and backup systems. Morrison shook his head. Absolutely not. Sir. Elena, listen to me. Your father was my friend. I respected him. But I won't risk more lives on untested theories. Especially not with his daughter leading the mission. Because you think I can't be objective? Because I think you're too close to this. Your judgment is compromised. Elena stood up. My judgment is clear, sir. Those conventional bombers will get shot down. Good pilots will die. And that facility will keep making weapons that kill our people. That's enough, Captain. Is it? Because from where I sit, it looks like Command is more worried about covering their mistakes than winning this war. Morrison's face hardened. Sit down, Captain Walker. Elena remained standing. My father spent 2 years developing those tactics. He ran hundreds of simulations. He solved problems that conventional warfare can't handle. And you want to bury his work because one mission had equipment failure? I want to prevent more good pilots from dying. By sending them into a meat grinder instead? Those heavy bombers are sitting ducks, sir. You know it. I know it. But it's the safe choice for your career. Captain Walker, you are out of line. Elena picked up the folder. Am I wrong, sir? Morrison stared at her for a long moment. The Nighthawk's position is still open. Think carefully about whether you want it. And think carefully about what kind of officer you want to be. Elena headed for the door, then stopped. What kind of officer was my father? The kind who got results. And the kind who didn't know when to stop pushing. Elena left the office and walked down the corridor toward the elevator. Other officers passed her, some nodding respectfully. They knew who she was, Hawk's daughter. Some probably thought she was crazy for arguing with Morrison. Others might understand. She found herself in the base library 20 minutes later, sitting at a computer terminal. She typed in her father's access codes, hoping they hadn't been deactivated yet. They worked. His files opened on the screen. Hundreds of documents. Mission reports, tactical analyses, formation studies. Years of work that Command wanted to forget. Elena opened a file labeled Shadow Strike, Final Version. The screen filled with diagrams more complex than anything in Morrison's folder. Her father had been working on this right up until his final mission. At the bottom of the document, he'd written a note, for Elena, if something happens to me, remember that innovation wins wars. Don't let them bury this. The Nighthawks deserve better. Our country deserves better. Elena saved the file to a secure drive and logged out. She walked back through the base, past the hangars where her father's aircraft used to sit. The spot was empty now, marked only by oil stains on the concrete. Tomorrow she would have to decide. Take command of the Nighthawks and follow orders. Or find another way to complete what her father started. The review board meeting was scheduled for 1400 hours in Conference Room C. Elena arrived 30 minutes early and sat in the hallway, her father's flight helmet on her lap. She'd requested the hearing herself. Morrison had warned her against it. You're asking them to reverse a decision they've already made, he'd said. And you're asking as the dead pilot's daughter. That's not a strong position. But Elena knew something Morrison didn't. She'd spent 3 days analyzing her father's mission data. The equipment failure wasn't random. It was predictable. And preventable. The conference room door opened. Colonel Richards emerged and nodded at her. They're ready for you, Captain. Elena entered and found 5 officers seated at a long table. She recognized General Morrison and Colonel Richards. The others were from Pentagon Air Command, people who made decisions about tactics and strategy. Captain Walker, said the woman at the center of the table. Her nameplate read General Stone. Please be seated. Elena remained standing. I prefer to stand, ma'am. Very well. You've requested this hearing to propose leading a mission using your father's tactical methods. Is that correct? Yes, ma'am. General Stone opened a folder. Captain, your service record is exemplary. Your flight skills are among the best in your class. But this request raises concerns about your objectivity. What concerns specifically, ma'am? You're asking us to risk pilots' lives on tactics that recently failed. And you're asking as someone who may be emotionally compromised. Elena reached into her briefcase and pulled out a stack of printouts. May I approach? General Stone nodded. Elena walked to the table and placed copies in front of each officer. These are equipment maintenance logs for the aircraft used in Operation Nightfall. Cross-referenced with failure analysis reports. The officers began reading. Elena waited. The hydraulic system failures weren't random, she continued. They followed a pattern. Systems that should have been replaced weren't. Backup systems that should have been tested weren't. My father's tactics didn't kill those pilots. Poor maintenance did. Colonel Richards looked up. Captain, even if that's true, it doesn't prove your father's formations would work under normal conditions. No, sir, it doesn't. But it proves they didn't fail because the tactics were flawed. General Stone set down the papers. What exactly are you proposing? Let me lead a follow-up mission using the Shadow Strike formation. Same target. Same objective. But with properly maintained aircraft and full equipment redundancy. How many pilots would you risk? 6. Including myself. Half the number you'd lose with conventional bombing. The general to Stone's left spoke up. Captain, you're asking us to gamble with lives based on your father's untested theories. Elena looked directly at him. Sir, those theories aren't untested. My father ran over 300 flight simulations. The mathematics are sound. The formation dynamics work. The only test we haven't done is live combat with functional equipment. Simulations aren't reality, Morrison said. Neither is sending heavy bombers against modern air defenses, sir. But we do that because it's familiar. Not because it's effective. General Stone leaned forward. Captain, help us understand something. Why is this mission so important to you personally? Elena had expected this question. She'd practiced her answer. But standing there, looking at these officers who would decide her fate, the practiced words disappeared. Because he was right, she said. My father saw something the rest of us missed. A way to fight smarter instead of harder. A way to bring people home alive. She paused and looked around the table. But it's not just about him. That weapons facility has killed 12 American pilots in the last 6 months. Conventional tactics haven't worked. Every mission we send gets shot down or turns back. Meanwhile, that facility keeps producing weapons that kill our people. And you think you can succeed where others have failed? Stone asked. I think my father's tactics can succeed. With the right preparation and the right team. The room went quiet. Elena could hear the air conditioning humming and voices in the hallway outside. Captain, Stone said finally, assuming we approve this mission, who would you choose for your team? Volunteers only. Pilots who understand the risks and believe in the tactics. And if we refuse? Elena straightened. Then I'll accept command of the Night Hawks and follow conventional orders. But I'll go on record stating that those orders will result in unnecessary casualties. General Stone exchanged glances with the other officers. Captain Walker, wait outside. We need to discuss this privately. Elena picked up her helmet and walked to the door. As she reached for the handle, Stone spoke again. Captain? Your father's helmet? He wore it on his first solo flight. Said it brought him luck. Did it? Elena looked back at the general. He survived 20 years of combat flying, ma'am. I'd say it worked. She left the room and sat back down in the hallway. Through the closed door, she could hear muffled voices but couldn't make out words. 15 minutes later, the door opened. Colonel Richards emerged. Captain Walker? They want to see you again. Conditional approval, General Stone had said. 6 pilots maximum. Volunteer only. And Captain Walker, if this fails, your career is over. Elena stood in Hangar 7 at 0600 hours, looking at the 6 pilots who'd answered her call. The hangar echoed with the sound of maintenance crews working on aircraft in the distance. Major Carlos Rodriguez sat on an equipment crate, arms crossed. He'd flown with her father for 3 years. Next to him stood Lieutenant Sarachin, barely 2 years out of flight school but with reflexes that impressed everyone who flew with her. Captain Mike Torres leaned against a toolbox, chewing gum. He'd volunteered for every dangerous mission in the past 5 years. Lieutenant Jake Morrison, the general's nephew, stood apart from the others, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Captain Lisa Park sat on her helmet, studying a tablet with technical specifications. She'd been her father's weapons systems officer on 12 missions before his death. Elena walked to the center of the group. "You all know why we're here," she said. "The review board approved our mission with conditions. We have 2 weeks to train. No room for error." Rodriguez stood up. "Captain, before we start, I need to say something." "Go ahead, Major." "Your father was a good man. A great pilot. But good men die when they chase impossible dreams." Rodriguez looked around at the other pilots. "How many of us are you willing to sacrifice for his ghost?" The hangar went quiet except for the distant sound of jet engines being tested. Elena met Rodriguez's stare. "Major, my father didn't die chasing dreams. He died because maintenance crews didn't do their jobs. His tactics are sound. Tactics that exist only on paper. So did every innovation in military history before someone tried it." Lieutenant Chen spoke up. "Major Rodriguez, respectfully, conventional bombing hasn't worked either. We've lost 4 squadrons trying to hit that facility." With pilots who came home to talk about it, Rodriguez replied. Torres stopped chewing his gum. "Actually, no. My squadron lost 3 pilots last month on a conventional run. They didn't come home either." Elena pulled out a portable projector and aimed it at the hangar wall. Tactical diagrams appeared, her father's shadow strike formation. "This is what we're training for," she said. 6 aircraft in 2 waves. Wave 1 hits anti-aircraft positions. Wave 2 strikes the main facility. Total time over target, 4 minutes. Lieutenant Morrison raised his hand. "Captain, what makes you think this will work when everything else has failed?" Elena clicked to the next diagram. Speed and surprise. Conventional bombing gives defenders time to react. Heavy formations show up on radar miles away. This formation stays invisible until the last possible moment. Park looked up from her tablet. "The mathematics check out. I've run the numbers 3 times. "Mathematics don't account for human error," Rodriguez said. "Neither do conventional tactics," Elena replied. "But conventional tactics accept higher casualty rates." She clicked to another slide showing radar signatures. 6 stealth fighters flying this pattern look like weather to enemy radar. By the time they realize what's happening, we're already gone. Chen studied the formation diagram. "This requires perfect timing. If anyone is off by even 30 seconds. The formation adapts," Elena said. "That's the beauty of my father's design. It's flexible." Rodriguez shook his head. "Captain, I flew with your father. I respected him. But respect doesn't make experimental tactics safe. Major, you volunteered for this mission. Why?" Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. "Because that facility killed my wingman 2 months ago. And because maybe, just maybe, your father was right." Elena nodded. "That's all I'm asking. A chance to prove he was right." She turned off the projector. "We start training tomorrow. Flight simulators first, then live exercises. Anyone who wants out can leave now. No questions asked." Nobody moved. "All right then. Major Rodriguez, you'll lead Wave 1 with Lieutenant Chen and Captain Torres. I'll lead Wave 2 with Lieutenant Morrison and Captain Park. Morrison stepped forward. Captain, my uncle specifically asked me to keep an eye on this mission. Elena looked at him. Are you here to fly or a spy, Lieutenant? Both, honestly. Torres laughed. At least he's honest about it. Elena walked over to a covered aircraft in the corner of the hangar. She pulled off the tarp, revealing her father's restored F-22. This was his plane, she said. Maintenance rebuilt it from scratch. Every system checked and double-checked. The aircraft gleamed under the hangar lights. On the nose, painted in small letters, was the call sign Hawk 1. Park ran her hand along the wing. It's beautiful. It's fast, Elena said. And it's going to help us finish what my father started. Rodriguez walked over and examined the aircraft. Captain, I need to ask you something directly. What's that, Major? Are you doing this for the mission or for him? Elena looked at her father's aircraft, then back at Rodriguez. Does it matter? Either way, that facility gets destroyed and we all come home. It matters if your judgment is compromised. Elena picked up her flight helmet from a nearby bench. Inside the liner, she'd taped a photo of her squadron. All 6 faces looking back at her. Major, my judgment is clear. We're going to train harder than any squadron in the Air Force. We're going to know these formations better than our own names. And we're going to complete this mission successfully. She looked around at the faces of her pilots. Because that's what my father would have done. And that's what we're going to do. The hangar fell silent again. Elena could see doubt in some faces, determination in others. Tomorrow the real work would begin. Elena's hands moved across the pre-flight checklist automatically. 2 weeks of training had made every switch, every gauge, every procedure second nature. Her father's F-22 hummed around her as systems came online. Nighthawks, this is tower control. Weather is clear. Winds calm. You are cleared for departure. Elena keyed her radio. Tower, Nighthawk 1. Formation departing as briefed. She looked left and right. Rodriguez and Chen flanked her in perfect formation. Behind them, Torres, Morrison, and Park maintained precise spacing. Everything exactly as they'd practiced. Nighthawks, sound off, Elena said. Hawk 2, ready. Rodriguez's voice was steady. Hawk 3, ready. Chen sounded eager. Hawk 4, ready. Torres cracked his gum. Hawk 5, systems green. Morrison was all business. Hawk 6, weapons hot. Park's voice carried confidence. Elena pushed the throttle forward. 6 fighters lifted off the runway in perfect synchronization, climbing into the pre-dawn darkness. For the first hour, everything went according to plan. They flew low and fast across friendly territory, maintaining radio silence. Elena watched her instruments, but her mind kept drifting to her father's voice during training simulations. Trust the formation. Trust your wingman. Trust the plan. At 07:30, they crossed into hostile airspace. Hawks, going dark, Elena transmitted. All radios switched to encrypted frequencies. The landscape below changed from green farmland to rocky desert. Intelligence photos had shown them this route dozens of times, but seeing it through her canopy felt different. More real. Hawk 1, this is Hawk 6, Park's voice crackled through the headset. I'm picking up radar signatures ahead. Looks like AAA positions. Elena checked her display. Anti-aircraft guns exactly where intelligence had predicted. Copy, Hawk 6. Hawks 2 through 4, you're cleared for Wave 1 attack. Rodriguez's formation peeled off to the left. Elena watched their dots on her radar screen as they approached the gun positions. Her father's plan called for eliminating air defenses first, clearing the path for the main strike. Wave 1 engaging, Rodriguez transmitted. Elena counted seconds. The attack should take 90 seconds maximum. She watched her chronometer. 60 seconds. 70. 80. Wave 1, report status, she called. Static. Hawk 2, do you copy? More static, then Rodriguez's voice, strained. Hawk 1, we've got problems. Heavy resistance. More guns than intelligence reported. Elena's throat tightened. What's your status? Hawk 3 took a hit. She's losing hydraulics. Hawk 4 is engaging multiple targets. Elena switched to tactical frequency. Hawk 3, this is Hawk 1. Can you maintain formation? Chen's voice came through broken with static. Negative, Hawk 1. I'm bleeding fuel and hydraulics. Need to abort. The formation was falling apart. Elena had to choose, abort the mission and save Chen, or continue with reduced numbers and hope Wave 1 could clear the defenses. Hawk 3, vector for home base. Emergency landing authorized. Copy, Hawk 1. Sorry. Elena watched Chen's aircraft turn away from the formation. Now they were down to 5 fighters. Hawk 2, status on those gun positions? Still active. We got some of them, but not all. Hawk 4 is making another pass. Elena checked her fuel gauge. They had enough for 1 attack run, maybe 2 if they pushed it. But the longer they stayed, the more likely enemy fighters would find them. Wave 1, disengage and form up. We're going for the primary target. Hawk 1, the guns are still hot, Rodriguez protested. I know. We'll have to run the gap. Elena banked toward the weapons facility. Through her canopy, she could see it in the distance, a concrete complex surrounded by radar dishes and missile launchers. The 4 remaining aircraft of Wave 1 joined Elena and Park. 6 fighters now, instead of the planned formation of 6 with clear air defenses. Hawks, listen up, Elena transmitted. We're going in hot. Anti-aircraft is still active. Stay tight on my wing and follow the attack pattern exactly. Copy, Hawk 1, came 5 voices. Elena armed her weapons systems. The target grew larger in her display. 2 miles. 1 mile. Suddenly, Park's voice cut through the comm. Hawk 1, I've got multiple radar contacts closing fast. Enemy fighters, bearing 270. Elena's blood went cold. How many? 8, maybe 10. Moving fast. This wasn't in the intelligence briefing. The facility was supposed to be lightly defended with minimal air cover. Time to intercept? 3 minutes, maybe less. Elena had seconds to decide. Attack the facility and risk getting caught by enemy fighters. Or abort and let the facility continue operating. She thought about her father's final mission. About the weapons that facility had produced. About the American pilots those weapons had killed. Hawks, we're going in. Maximum speed, single pass. Drop everything on target and get out. Hawk 1, those fighters, Morrison began. I know about the fighters, 5. Stay focused on the mission. Elena pushed her throttle to maximum. The F-22 accelerated toward the facility. Around her, the other 5 fighters maintained perfect formation despite the chaos. The facility's defensive guns opened fire. Tracer rounds streaked past Elena's canopy. She could hear the ping of fragments hitting her aircraft's armor. 30 seconds to target, Park called out. Elena's targeting system locked onto the main building. Everything her father had worked for came down to the next few seconds. Hawks, weapons free. Engage at will. The facility filled her targeting display. Elena's finger moved to the weapons release button. Behind them, enemy fighters closed the distance. Ahead, anti-aircraft fire filled the sky. Elena pressed the button. Elena's missiles streaked toward the weapons facility as explosions erupted around her aircraft. The other night Hawks released their ordnance simultaneously, exactly as her father had planned. Direct hits on primary target, Park called out. Building is collapsing. But there was no time to celebrate. Elena's radar screen showed enemy fighters closing fast. Break formation, she ordered. Evasive maneuvers. The perfect shadow strike formation scattered as 6 F-22s took individual evasive actions. Elena pulled hard left as tracer rounds streaked past her canopy. Hawk 2, I've got 2 on my tail, Rodriguez transmitted, his voice tight with strain. Elena looked over her shoulder. Rodriguez's aircraft was trailing smoke, 2 enemy fighters closing behind him. Hawk 4, assist Hawk 2, she ordered. On it, Torres replied. His aircraft banked sharply toward Rodriguez's position. Elena's threat warning system screamed as missiles locked onto her aircraft. She deployed countermeasures and dove toward the desert floor, using the terrain to break the lock. Hawk 1, this is Hawk 5, Morrison's voice came through the comm. I'm taking heavy fire. Systems failing. Elena saw Morrison's F-22 streaming fuel, an enemy fighter closing for the kill. She had a choice. Follow her father's extraction plan and get her remaining pilots out safely. Or break formation to save Morrison. Her father would have followed the plan. Tactical discipline over individual heroics. But Elena wasn't her father. Hawk 6, take the lead. Get everyone home, she transmitted to Park. Hawk 1, what are you doing? Saving our wingman. Elena broke away from the extraction route and dove toward Morrison's position. Her targeting system locked onto the enemy fighter pursuing him. Hang on, 5. I'm coming. She fired a missile. The enemy aircraft exploded in a ball of orange flame. Thanks, 1. I owe you. You can buy me dinner when we get home. Now get out of here. Elena turned back toward the extraction route, but 3 more enemy fighters had positioned themselves between her and safety. Her fuel gauge showed critical levels. Hawk 1, this is Hawk 6, Park's voice crackled through static. We're clear of the combat zone. What's your status? Elena looked at her instruments. Low fuel. Damaged hydraulics. 3 enemy fighters blocking her escape route. I'm working on it, 6. The enemy fighters were closing in formation, trying to box her in. Elena remembered something from her father's notes, something about using aggression when retreat wasn't possible. Instead of running, she turned directly toward the lead enemy fighter. Come on then, she muttered. The 2 aircraft flew straight at each other at combined speed of over 1,000 miles per hour. Elena's targeting system locked on. The enemy pilot's nerve broke first. He pulled up at the last second. Elena fired as he passed overhead. Another explosion lit up the sky. The remaining 2 fighters split apart, trying to flank her. Elena dove toward the ground again, using her aircraft's superior stealth capabilities to disappear from their radar. She flew barely 50 feet above the desert, weaving between rock formations. Behind her, the enemy fighters struggled to maintain visual contact. Her radio crackled. Hawk 1, this is Night Base. Do you copy? Night Base, Hawk 1. I copy. Elena, this is General Morrison. What's your status? Elena checked her instruments. Fuel critical. Hydraulics failing. But she was alive and heading home. Mission accomplished, sir. Target destroyed. 5 aircraft returning to base. What about you? Elena looked at her fuel gauge. The needle hovered just above empty. I'll make it, sir. 20 minutes later, Elena's F-22 appeared on the horizon, trailing smoke. The other Night Hawks had landed safely and were waiting on the tarmac as she approached the runway. Her landing gear deployed with a grinding sound. The aircraft touched down hard, bounced once, then settled onto the runway. Elena brought it to a stop just as the engines flamed out from fuel starvation. She sat in the cockpit for a moment, hands shaking slightly. Through the canopy, she could see ground crews running toward her aircraft. Elena removed her helmet and climbed out of the cockpit. Rodriguez was the first to reach her. Hell of a flying, Captain. The other pilots gathered around. Chin was there too, her aircraft repaired and fueled for the flight home. Did we get it? Elena asked. Park held up a tablet showing satellite images. Direct hit. The facility is completely destroyed. Elena nodded and walked toward the operations building. Inside, General Morrison was waiting with the mission debrief team. "Captain Walker," he said. "Outstanding work." "Thank you, sir." The Shadow Strike formation performed exactly as your father predicted. Command is already discussing implementation across other squadrons. Elena looked out the window at her father's aircraft, still smoking on the tarmac. "He would have been proud, sir." "I think he would have been," Morrison agreed. "But more importantly, you should be proud. You didn't just complete his mission, Elena. You improved on it." That evening, Elena sat alone in her apartment, her father's letter in her hands. She picked up a pen and wrote on the bottom, "Mission complete, Dad. We brought everyone home." She folded the letter and placed it back in her father's box, next to his old flight wings. Outside her window, she could see the base flight line. Tomorrow there would be new missions, new challenges. But tonight, the Nighthawks had proven that innovation could win wars. And sometimes, that was enough. If this story moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales of American heroes. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Thanks for watching.